I'm in Chelmsford Center today with a former selectman of Chelmsford and former Finance Committee Chairman, Sam Chase. How are you, Sam?
I'm fine, Tom. How are you?
Good, good, thanks. And as you can see in this, the back of Sam, he has his car. What is this that you have, Sam?
This is a 1950 Dodge Coronet, four-door sedan.
1950 Dodge Coronet. How long have you had this
I've had
Dodge?
the vehicle since 2006, so it's about a little over 12 years.
12 years you've had it now. Nice. And how do you like it, Sam?
I love it.
You love it. Nice.
It is extremely reliable. I drive it between 3,000 and 4,000 miles a year, and it's never broken down.
3 or 4, that's more than you drive. I drive my Miata. That's really good. So you drive it in the winter at all?
I do, as long as the roads are not wet.
Yeah.
That's the only time I don't take it out. If the cold weather certainly doesn't bite. Matter of fact, it runs better in the cold weather.
Really?
Oh yes,
All
yeah.
right.
Because the air is, air, it's a carbureted vehicle.
Yeah.
And so the quality of the air going into the carburetor is important. In the wintertime, it's drier and the air isn't as dense. So the car actually does run better in the cold weather, believe it or not.
That is amazing.
Yep.
So what do you have for an engine in here, Sam?
It's a flathead 6-cylinder engine.
A flathead 6-cylinder.
The standard engine that Chrysler used in all of its vehicles from about 1933 through 1960.
And what made you buy an older car?
Well,
12 years ago.
After my children were grown and through college and so forth, and I had a little extra money and a little extra time, I've always wanted to own a classic vehicle, and I've always wanted to own one that was in my era, which is 1950s and early 60s,
Yeah.
the time that I came of age. I got my driver's license in early 1963. So I was looking for one like this because the vehicle I learned how to drive on was a 1952 Dodge, which is basically this car. This is a 50,
Yeah.
but the 52 had the same body style and exactly the same mechanics and running gear. So I actually found this one, which was about as close as I could get to the car that I learned how to drive on and drove for several months when I first had my driver's license.
So what a great thing. You first learned how to drive in a car similar to this, and then in 2006, about 12 years ago, you bought one very similar to the first car you drove, probably.
Exactly.
That's a great idea, Sam. I like old cars too, as you may know. I watch the auctions a lot, and
oh, yes.
I just like looking at them. And I know that you know a lot about cars because you've told me all about the transmission on this car and how the stick shift. In fact, why don't you tell us now about the standard shift that you have in this car? Is it a certain type of standard, right?
The transmission is a conventional 3-speed manual transmission with a clutch that you have to shift. The gear shift lever is on the steering column, which was very common on American cars from 1939 through about 1978. The manual transmissions generally were 3 speeds, and the gear shift mechanism was on the steering column. And that's what this car has, but this car has something that's a little bit different. Instead of a solid flywheel, it has what they call a fluid coupling in place of the flywheel. A fluid coupling is essentially a torque converter without the stators that multiply the torque. So it's just a straight one-to-one fluid coupling. And what it does is it allows you to put the transmission in gear, let the clutch out, and the car won't stall. Just like if you were in gear in an automatic shift car, it doesn't stall. If you're in gear and you put your foot on the brake in an automatic car, it doesn't stall, and that's what this car will do.
Oh, nice.
Okay?
Nice.
Now, it doesn't shift itself.
Yeah.
You still have to shift it first, second, and third, but it won't stall if you leave it in gear. And because of the fluid coupling, you don't usually have to go through all the shift sequence. If you're on a level ground without too much weight in the car, you can start the car at rest in second gear. So you eliminate a shift. So you right then and there you cut out a third of your shifting. Okay.
Nice.
When you're going around a corner and you slow down to 7-8 miles an hour, If you had the conventional flywheel, you'd have to shift the car into second gear and then pick up. This car, because of the slippage in the torque converter, you can go around corners and leave it in high, and you don't have to shift into second. So the idea of the fluid coupling is it cuts down on the amount of gear shifting that you have to do.
And how did you learn all about this, Sam? That
Well,
sounds pretty
again,
complicated.
I learned how to drive in a car just like this, so I knew it from that. And then, of course, I've done an awful lot of research in the interim, because, of course, you have to keep these cars roadworthy. And there are not that many mechanics around that know how to work on cars like this, so I do a lot of my own work.
Nice. And where do you go for, if you do have to go somewhere for mechanic work, might I ask?
Believe it or not, Acton, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge.
On a great road
Route
in
27 in
Acton.
Acton. A modern Chrysler dealership that knows how to work on the old cars.
Oh,
They've got 3 mechanics there that specialize in the old cars, and that's all they do, and they have a business. I mean, they're able to, they have enough business to keep 3 mechanics going. So, yeah, it's amazing. Very, very fortunate, because before then I used Nick Landry on Route 27 in Acton, where the Hart Pond station is now.
Yes.
And Nick was my age, and he was really knowledgeable in the cars. But then, you know, he sold his business and moved away, and I had to find somebody that could do some of the things that I can't do. And I just very luckily stumbled onto Acton Chrysler Jeep Dodge that will work on the old vehicles.
Nice. Well, Sam, would you like to say anything else about the car before? We're going to maybe take a look around at the car next.
Absolutely.
But anything? We're all set for now, right?
Don't look too closely, because this car is what they call a 20-footer, which means it looks good at 20 feet. When you get up close, you can see the body imperfections.
I see. Well, thanks for talking with us today, Sam.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.